there are no great black designers. Name 5 successful, popular, household, black-owned brands that are not attached to a celebrity. I'll wait. Now, of course, as a designer, I know that that is the furthest thing from the truth. But if you look at just the history of fashion, it would seem as so, right? It would seem that there were just no super talented, successful, black owned brands, fashion brands. I'm speaking about fashion. Fashion is my forte, that is my area of expertise. So, of course, that's what I am speaking about. Now, of course, I know because I like to say that I am a student of fashion always, right? I've been in the fashion industry for over 20 years. So I know, of course, from personal experience, some of them are like good friends of mine. I'm married to one. But there are a plethora of really amazing black designers, black owned brands that are not attached to a celebrity, but we do not get the recognition, we do not get the support, and our names are just not said enough in the stratosphere, right? That's just a reality. Like, so recently I went to go to see the Met exhibition, the Dandyism exhibition. And the one thing, as amazing of an exhibition that it is, for one, I don't like that we have raised the most money in the history of the costume exhibition at the Met, but we are in the smallest, one of the smallest rooms since I've been going. And again, I've been going to the Met costume exhibition for at least the last 15 years. But anyway, that's another subject for another day. But going down the timeline of all of the designers, black designers, you know, some mostly black American, a lot of like West Indian descent, and some African from different countries in the continent of Africa were on display. One of the main things that I realized after leaving was there was a huge gap, right? So it was a lot of designers from, I'm going to say, the early 1930s, 20s, and then there, of course, there were a lot of brands that were not black owned, but now they have creative directors who are black. So like Balmain, right? Balmain is not a black owned brand, but now Olivier is the creative director. So he's black, African from France. So he gets, he gets a display. You have Off-White, which was Virgil's brand, which we know originally was an Italian brand, and they put him as the creative director, and so forth and so on. Louis Vuitton, which is not a black brand, but Pharrell is now the creative director. So, again, but there was like a whole gap of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Right, so it literally was like, okay, it was great getting this history lesson of all of these older black designers. A lot of them are Byron Lars, I believe, yeah, Byron Lars. It was just like I got a history lesson, even though I've learned of some of these older designers. But then again, it was just a complete jump from the 30s, maybe the 60s, up until like 2010 or 2015. Like, it literally was like, okay, you guys are just scrambling because you don't want to do the work. And I know they had a third party consultant who was a black historian, I believe. I don't really know the details on her background, but I know they brought in a third party, a black woman, third party consultant who helped to facilitate this exhibition. But the thing was, there were so many designers that I knew of, right, when I started fashion, from the 80s, from the 90s, even 2000s, who literally were just void. There was a void. They were missing. It went from all of these older designers that I had to learn about to designers, which, and I appreciate, I'm glad that the likes of Telfar, the likes of Denim Tears, all of these younger brands. Telfar has been around, so Telfar falls into that early 2000, mid 2000 era. But still, I mean, there are so many black designers that could have filled that gap of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And it's just like someone dropped the ball, someone didn't pay attention. And the reality is that the fashion industry completely ignored a lot of some of the great talents of the 80s and 90s and 2000s who were doing amazing work. And because fashion, I'm just going to say it, fashion is a very elitist, excuse me, I'm in New York City, very elitist, very racist industry. There was a time that they just turned a blind eye to extremely popular, extremely pivotal designers of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I'm going to say, for one, there was Kasumi and Malcolm. How do you completely disregard their, contribution to the fashion industry in the 90s and 2000s? How do you just completely skip over Tracy Reese? How do you, it's just, there were so many designers. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to compile a list and put them maybe in the next post, or actually I'm going to put them in the caption. I'm going to compile a list of at least like 10 designers that were completely overlooked for this costume exhibition. But the bigger conversation is black designers, black brands, we need support, we need champion, and we need people to be a voice for us, right? Because a lot of times we are like just so head down into our work that we're not really promoting ourselves. We don't want to seem like a hater, so we don't want to speak up for ourselves when we're being overlooked. But the reality is, if we don't speak about it, then again, we will be completely omitted from history of fashion. Listen, my name is Tyson. I am the owner of Hardware Style. We are a black-owned luxury streetwear brand, and I'm gonna shout that to the top of my lungs, to the top of the mountains, every chance that I get. But again, there are so many of our elders who have paved the way for brands like me, for, contemporary brands, for whatever, that just have been completely ignored or just completely removed from the conversation of fashion, and it's just about time that we start giving them their flowers, we start saying their names, we start, lifting them up, because they're still alive. A lot of them are still alive. A lot of them are still here. And, some of them are a little jaded because they see how much access and how much recognition a lot of these young designers are getting, young black designers. I'm just speaking about young black designers are getting. And, a lot of the time these young designers are inspired by these brands that they've seen in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, but just didn't get the recognition. And they're able to tap into that, aesthetic and move it forward. And they're getting all of the recognition. And, the originator is just getting completely overlooked. And I just think it's time that each of us, just dip back and bring them up, even if it's just mentioning their names in interview or like a post like this. Again, and I'm going to do a separate post where I'm going to literally because right now I'm just spewing out what was on the tip of my mind, and I said, let me record this content before I, forget about it and then move on to posting another get ready with me video. But I'm gonna do another post where I'm going to literally pay homage to at least 10 black brands, black designers that were completely overlooked, that should have been included in the Met Gala, that should be on the tip of our tongue. If you are black and you are in fashion, these are 10 designers that you should be paying homage to, that you should be recognizing, that you should be, giving their flowers while they're still here. All right? This is Tyson's Got Style. Tap in, watch me, follow me. Make sure to follow. And then listen. And if you want to see somebody on the list that put in the comments. Give me 10 black designers, black-owned brands that are extremely talented, that you feel are overlooked, that should be recognized. All right? Peace.